Most fans think they've seen every fantasy isekai, but these hidden gems completely redefine reincarnation, magic worlds, and survival storytelling in anime today, completely overlooked. Kicking off our list at number 10, Dead Mount Death. Play Dead Mount Death Play follows a legendary necromancer known as the Corpse God, who is killed in a high fantasy world during a battle against the hero Calamity Crusher. He suddenly awakens in modern-day Tokyo, inside the body of a young man named Polka Shinoyama, drawn into a criminal underworld filled with assassins, supernatural cults, and mysteries tied to his reincarnation. This series stands out for blending dark fantasy mechanics with modern crime storytelling, turning the typical reincarnation trope into something far more unpredictable and strategic. The world-building constantly shifts between magical origins and Tokyo's underworld politics, keeping tension high while revealing layered connections between characters that feel genuinely interconnected and dangerous in every arc from start to finish. Moving down the rankings to number 9, Reincarnated as a Sword. Reincarnated as a Sword follows a man who dies in the real world and is reborn as a sentient magical sword in a fantasy realm. He forms a bond with Fran, a beast girl seeking freedom, and together they travel through dungeons, fight monsters, and grow stronger while uncovering dangers across a magical world filled with constant adventure and danger together. This adaptation succeeds because it treats the sword perspective seriously, giving the protagonist a tactical viewpoint that feels fresh compared to typical reincarnation stories. Fran's growth, combined with fluid combat animation and steady dungeon progression, makes the series consistently engaging without relying on excessive exposition or unnecessary filler scenes from beginning to end. Overall impact. Breaking into our top 7 at number 8. Handyman Saito in Another World. Handyman Saito in Another World follows a normal repairman who is unexpectedly transported into a fantasy world filled with dungeons, monsters, and adventuring parties. He becomes a vital support member of the party, using practical everyday skills to solve dungeon problems, repair gear, and keep the group alive while adapting to a world far more dangerous than his original life ever. This anime shines by turning a non-combat protagonist into the backbone of the party, proving that utility roles can be just as compelling as fighters or mages. The balance between humor, problem-solving, and dungeon tension keeps the pacing tight, while character interactions feel natural and grounded, despite the fantasy setting making it quietly addictive to watch over time. Breaking into our top 6 at number 7, The Most Notorious Talker runs the world's greatest clan. The Most Notorious Talker runs the world's greatest clan follows a young man who possesses the weakest combat class, but an extremely powerful support and manipulation ability called Talker. He relies on persuasion and psychological tactics rather than brute force, climbing ranks by recruiting allies and manipulating situations to build a powerful clan in a world that values strength above all else. This series stands out for redefining the support class archetype, showing how intelligence and communication can outperform raw strength in a structured fantasy hierarchy. The protagonist's methods feel calculated and ruthless, yet strategic execution keeps every encounter tense and engaging, especially when alliances shift and trust becomes a dangerous currency throughout the narrative from beginning to end, consistently. Breaking into our top 6 at number 6. The Reincarnation of the Strongest Exorcist in Another World. The reincarnation of the strongest exorcist in Another World follows a powerful exorcist who is betrayed and killed, then reincarnated into a fantasy world where magic replaces spiritual energy. He uses knowledge from his past life and exorcist techniques to dominate magic systems, avoid threats, and uncover conspiracies, while adapting to a noble society filled with monsters and political intrigue quickly. The concept works because it fuses traditional exorcism lore with fantasy magic systems, giving the protagonist a rare hybrid skill set that feels overpowered but methodically earned. Every conflict escalates through intelligence rather than raw power, and the political tension layered into the story keeps the narrative consistently sharp and unpredictable across arcs from start to finish consistently. Moving into the top 5 at number 5. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale. Sugar Apple Fairy Tale follows a young girl named Anne Harford, who travels to a kingdom where humans control magical fairies through ownership and contracts. She becomes a silver sugar master, a rare artisan who creates edible sugar works, while navigating a world where fairies are enslaved and treated as property under strict human control, while seeking freedom for fairies theirs. This anime stands out for its emotional storytelling, blending delicate world-building with harsh social commentary about ownership, freedom, and identity within a fantasy framework. The relationship between human and fairy characters adds depth to the narrative, making every interaction feel meaningful, while the animation emphasizes both beauty and underlying cruelty in equal measure from start to finish strong. Breaking into our top 4 at number 4. Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill. Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill follows an ordinary salaryman summoned to a fantasy world as an unintended hero with the unique ability to access modern online shopping. He uses his online grocery skill to buy modern ingredients, cooking meals that attract powerful companions and gods, while surviving dangerous quests in a magical world with unexpected consequences everywhere. This series thrives on comfort fantasy, using food as a storytelling device that contrasts normal modern life with overpowered fantasy survival mechanics. The cooking sequences are surprisingly detailed and satisfying, while the protagonist's passive but clever approach to danger makes the series relaxing yet consistently entertaining across its episodic structure from start to finish, always worth watching completely. Breaking into the top 3 at number 3. I'm in Love with the Villainess. I'm in Love with the Villainess follows an office worker reincarnated into her favorite otome game world, where she immediately rejects the main love interests to pursue the villainess instead. She uses her knowledge of game routes and character outcomes to build a genuine relationship with the villainess, challenging the story's intended romance paths and reshaping the narrative direction completely rewritten. This series is refreshing because it flips the traditional otome game structure, focusing on emotional authenticity rather than predictable romantic outcomes. The relationship development is surprisingly grounded with strong character writing that gives the villainess genuine depth, making the romance feel earned, unconventional, and far more compelling than standard genre expectations from start to finish. Highly recommended always. Moving into the top 2 at number 2. Dahlia in Bloom, Crafting a Fresh Start with Magical Tools. Dahlia in Bloom, Crafting a Fresh Start with Magical Tools follows a young woman who reincarnates after a difficult past life and decides to live independently in a world of crafting and magic tools. She builds a new life as a skilled artisan, creating magical tools while forming relationships and navigating personal growth in a world that values innovation and independence. This anime excels in grounded storytelling, focusing on craftsmanship, self-reliance, and emotional recovery, rather than traditional adventure escalation. The pacing is calm but intentional, highlighting character-driven growth and realistic struggles, which makes the series feel more mature and reflective compared to typical fantasy reincarnation narratives from start to finish. Strong emotional resonance that stays with viewers long after. Reigning supreme at number 1. Quality Assurance in Another World. Quality Assurance in Another World follows a young tester who discovers he is trapped inside a flawed fantasy game world that behaves like a real living system. He uses his debugging knowledge and system awareness to identify glitches, survive dangerous anomalies, and uncover hidden rules within the world, while interacting with characters who may or may not be real, ultimately uncertain. This concept is fascinating because it treats a fantasy world like a broken simulation, turning meta-awareness into a survival tool. The protagonist's analytical approach creates constant tension as every action risks triggering unintended consequences, making the narrative feel unpredictable, intelligent, and structurally unique within the Isekai from start to finish, consistently engaging throughout. Highly recommended experience overall. That wraps up 10 underrated fantasy and Isekai that deserve far more attention for their creativity, world building, and unique takes on familiar tropes. If you enjoyed discovering hidden gems like these, share your favorites in the comments and continue exploring the genre for surprises waiting.